So, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about the compound effect and how it works and why you should start slowly doing things to get the compound effect. Anyhow, let's get to the video. Topic itself. I'm a little bit tired, to be honest with you. It's getting pretty late. I'm recording this super late and I'm probably not super energetic in this video. I honestly cannot be. I'll try my best. I'll probably have to look at the notes a bit, and it's going to be a little bit of a tired video. I'll try my best to talk for a long time and make this interesting and informative as I can. Anyways, let's get to the video itself. So, the compound effect. What is the compound effect? Basically, the compound effect is something that you get when you have a bunch of things you do and then you get an outcome that compounds over time. So, excuse me, when you have a compound effect, it basically is like it's a sum of all your bad or good decisions. So if you made a lot of bad decisions like not exercising, not eating healthy, having bad habits, that's going to compound into some kind of an outcome for your life in some way. Same thing for good decisions, it's going to compound in some kind of way. If I keep going to the gym for 5 years, training hard, I'm going to get a positive compound effect usually. It is possible to get some bad outcomes, of course, as well. Life is not so simple, but that's how it generally works with the compound effect. And basically, to put it simply, the compound effect is to be applied in a way where you make certain decisions and that's going to compound into what you want to achieve. And obviously, since the compound effect can be a bad thing too, you need to avoid making bad decisions as much as possible and avoid doing things that might compound into something bad. For example, something that could be good for you could also be bad for you. So let's say you go to the gym and yes, you have the good compound effect going, but let's say your form is bad, for example, on a deadlift or something, and that compounds over time because you're doing deadlifts with bad form. That's going to compound into an injury. That's a objective where it's like you're doing something good technically, but because you're doing it badly, that's going to compound into a bad effect even though you're doing something positive. So sometimes even if you're doing something that's a good habit, it can still compound in a way where it will end up being a bad thing if you make mistakes in that good habit or whatever that you're doing. Now this varies from circumstance to circumstance, so it's not so black and white, but you know, the general rule applies, or the general thought applies of it anyway. Now, as far as the compound effect goes, otherwise, personally for me, I've noticed the effects of the compound effects come in like in the last year, especially like just like doing more socializing has compounded into me having better social skills with people and being able to approach people way easier and being able to just be confident in every situation. Take me back 5 years, I wouldn't be able to talk to people at all or approach anybody, and I would have social anxiety and things like that. So it definitely everything compounds. So just you kind of have to keep putting yourself out there. Another thing is just small things like if you're trying to build something, you're going to have to just do good decisions over time and eventually it will compound into something. Same thing with the male life, since a lot of times, especially for men, you have to build something over like a decade if you want to build something big, like a business. You're gonna have to build it for a long time till you see the compound effect where you rise to the top. But a lot of the time, with the compound effect, the problem is that most people are not willing to wait that time that it will take, honestly, to get to the top. So a lot of the time people will just quit or they'll just try out a new thing and go with that. But even though they should have just kept doing what they were doing to make it, but they kind of stopped midway because they kind of got bored with it or they didn't have the motivation, discipline or whatever to stick through it. This is where you're gonna have to give things years. You have to give things years of time before you can really start being like, okay, this is for sure going to work, or this is for sure not going to work. You know, after you've done it for years, like, give it your all and try your best, and if you can't succeed, eventually you can switch to something else. Let's say you give yourself like 5 years of hard work on something like a business and it fails. Then you fail and you learn from that, and you learn that that's not for you and you should try something else maybe. You could also try for a decade and then fail, but usually probably within 5 years I would say you can see if you'll fail at making something or not. Like, give it like 2 to 5 years. I would say anything you're trying at that's like a business type thing, for example, whether it's like making content or whatever is a hobby that you might want to monetize eventually. Now, there's also the factor of the earlier you start, the compound effect, the better. For me, I started at 18 years old, pretty much doing self improvement, and I'm glad I did, because now, like 5 years later, I'm 23 now. If I hadn't started 5 years ago, I would be way behind other people. Now I'm actually ahead of people because I worked my ass off for 5 years and I'm still working my ass off. Because I worked for all those years, I'm now ahead of a lot of people, and a lot of people are somewhat jealous of that I'm ahead of them. I'm still not perfect and I got a lot of things to work on, but the fact that I've even worked so hard for these years has compounded to the fact where I'm like ahead of a lot of people. And I notice it in my SMV, sexual market value, as well as just my day-to-day life, in like interactions with everybody, as well as just the way I feel and everything. Just like the mental health compounds, so any decisions you make for your mental health compounds, the physical exercise compounds, the work ethic compounds, you know, if you're doing smart hard work. Everything I've done so far has definitely compounded. It's slow, of course, but if you're enjoying what you're doing, it will go by a lot faster. If you're not enjoying, then you should probably switch to something you are enjoying for real. Now, with the compound effect also, you have to look at it in your own way. You can't really compare yourself to other people, because some people can get lucky and they'll have a faster compound effect, and you might have a way slower compound effect. So you have to kind of stick to the process and live with with the cards you've been dealt, pretty much. So you can't really go about things like, oh, this person became successful in like 1 month, or this person in 1 year, and it's been 5 years of hard work and you still haven't achieved what they have achieved. That's just kind of life, you know. You have to get used to the fact that sometimes life is just a bitch, honestly, and it doesn't always work out for you, and you're just gonna have to keep going regardless. Like, yeah, there might be some random kid who's younger than you that got successful because of luck, and maybe genetics play a part and some work ethic a little bit, and you might have to grind for years to get the same results, or even just to get a partial result of that other person. And that is life. Now, I think a lot of things with the compound effect are very problematic, where it's like, once you are able to control yourself and not compare to other people and focus on your own compound effect and growing your own compound effect, you also have to remember that with the compound effect, most things do work out. What I found, at least, like, if you do the good habits, they will compound. You just have to be consistent. I find, obviously, smart hard work, as I said, is very important. You can't just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do whatever, you know, I'm gonna do these good habits. But if you're training at the gym but you're not training hard and smart, you're gonna fail, honestly. Like, just because you're doing a good habit doesn't mean you become better. Just because I meditate doesn't mean it's actually useful meditation. Am I focused on what I'm doing? Or if I make any kind of a work on, let's say I'm working on something that I know is going to benefit me in the future. If I'm not working on it properly, what's the point? You know? you have to do things properly still and put thought into things. You can't just expect good habits to be the end all be all, and it's like, oh, I'm doing this good habit, so I must be getting better. I think with self improvement, the problem is that with self improvement and self improvers in general, it's like people do these good habits, but they don't actually compound that much, because a lot of these habits are like habits that don't really make you see any change in the long term, other than like, okay, you might see a small change where you're going to have a little bit better mental health or whatever, or you're doing this good habit like, I don't know, meditation, things like this. They definitely improve your mental health, but at the end of the day, they don't change your life a huge lot. I feel like a lot of people in self-improvement get stuck in these small habits, and they're thinking that that's going to change their life, when in reality it's not enough, and they should also work on like their career and things like that. It's where a lot of people like get stuck, like being gym rats, and they don't really do anything else, but their good habit is going to the gym, and that's it. They don't really like have any other career prospects or anything like that. That's the most of the compound effect explained, is basically try to have a sense of making good decisions versus bad decisions, because the good decisions will compound eventually, as well as for females and males that life is a little bit different, because it's like for both good decisions compound, but for men it's especially important to make good decisions early, because that early bird advantage of getting the compound, if you start at 18 doing like self-improvement, that will compound at 30 like really hard, because you've been doing it for 12 years, and if you do it properly from 18, you're going to have a really good time, because you're going to be able to enjoy life if you succeed. I mean, succeeding in anything is not guaranteed really. Like, work hard, work smart, because at the end of the day, it's not always enough to just work hard. Work hard doesn't mean it's going to guarantee you anything. You have to also be smart about it. So that's something you definitely have to take into account. Anyhow, in conclusion, avoid making bad decisions, because it will compound eventually. Making a bad decision here and there doesn't really matter. It's not going to be a big deal, but let's say you have you're going to have a death of 1,000 cuts though, if you make a lot of minor bad decisions. It's going to compound eventually into something really bad if you have like 1,000 bad decisions that are very small, that you don't notice in your daily life. It's going to compound, like wasting a lot of time on shit and things like that, like useless stuff. But that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. I don't think I want to make this video any longer. It's pretty long already. I think I got the gist and the point out. I tried to touch the topic in a few different ways, so maybe you could understand the whole idea of the compound effect, as well as like what different areas it can affect and how deeply it can actually affect and things like that. So like, when you have all these things like minor bad decisions, I understand that will compound eventually if you make a lot of minor bad decisions. Same thing with good decisions and bad decisions, whatever. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about in this video and explain. I hope you understood what I was talking about and got the gist and the idea for your life to apply it, if you aren't already applying it. And just remember, when you start something, you're gonna have to be consistent, put in hard work and smart work to really see the results eventually. It took me forever to see results in a lot of things in life. I had to work my ass off for years, and you know, I'm still doing the same things, really working hard and smart. Anyhow, thank you for watching the video, and if there's a will, there's a way to achieve what you want. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.